Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. For my first video in 2024, I want to take a look at Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Not through the lens of alpha impressions or early hands-on feedback, but instead in the context of live service burnout. The biggest reason why I probably won't even dip my toes into a game that might otherwise have easily occupied my attention. Overload, fatigue, oversaturation. Call it what you like, but as 2023 came to a close, myself and plenty of others were left pondering a simple question with big implications. Is the live service bubble finally about to burst? The term live service has always been open to interpretation, and nailing down a concrete definition is incredibly difficult, now more than ever. For many, those words correlate to games like Destiny 2, Warframe, and The Division, PvE-focused titles with rolling content updates that often incorporate PvP side activities in one form or another. Beyond that, with the shift towards free-to-play and away from boxed releases for most multiplayer offerings, they have become largely synonymous with live service as well. Almost every major player in the PvP market follows the model of rolling out new seasons every few months. COD, Halo, Battlefield, Apex, Fortnite, you get the idea. And it's hard to argue they don't fall under that live service umbrella. Don't worry though, some of them are still happy to charge you an entrance fee before drowning you in their microtransactions. How generous. Updating games after release has already been the industry standard for quite some time, and it can be hard to shake that live service label, even if a studio might want to. How do you differentiate between simple post-launch support and full-on live service? Are they simply one and the same now? If your brain hurts from debating the definition of live service, you certainly aren't alone. And now more than ever, it seems like the wider gaming audience is grappling with the question, what actually constitutes a live service game? And with so many titles following that model, intentionally or otherwise, how the hell do you find time to play them all? When it comes to live service fatigue, it's hard to think of a game in recent memory that's been forced to contend with that ugly proposition like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has. When it was revealed that Rocksteady Studios, beloved across gaming for their excellent work on the Batman Arkham trilogy, was developing a live service looter-shooter for the next DC Universe installment, reception was anything but ecstatic. After several substantial delays, in no small part thanks to negative feedback and the game's poor initial reception, Suicide Squad is now slated to release in February 2024, 2 years after its initial launch window of 2022. With just over 2 weeks until launch, hands-on impressions and closed alpha feedback, which was previously restricted by an NDA later lifted by Rocksteady, have done little to clear up the murk still surrounding the game. Despite a few positive takeaways like combat, movement, and story, not at all surprising coming from a studio known for exactly those things, other aspects like loot and open world design, 2 hallmarks of a successful live service, have yet to impress. Suicide Squad may end up being a good game. A great game even. With Rocksteady at the helm, I'd frankly be surprised if the moment-to-moment combat and story aren't high quality. But all of that is overshadowed by one big caveat. How can I carve out the time required for yet another live service commitment? I, like many of you watching I reckon, can only dedicate so much time to playing video games. As much as I love getting sucked into my latest gaming obsession, there are only so many hours in the day I can spend on our hobby, and I'd venture a guess that my time investment goes well above what the average gamer can allow. I've spent a lot of time playing live service games, of both the PvE and PvP variety, and used to honor those commitments tenaciously, even if it meant missing out on other excellent games I probably should have been playing instead. As time marches ever onward, I find myself less and less invested in those types of games, and drawn more and more towards less demanding offerings. And make no mistake, live services do demand your time. In fact, they're designed to do exactly that. There's a reason why the average person can only realistically complete 1, maybe 2 battle passes for their favorite games each cycle. Because they've been purposefully constructed to take up just enough time to complete, but only if you give them your full and undivided attention. Long gone are the days when I'd put in an extra 50 levels beyond the seasonal cap for Destiny 2, or grind out an entire battle pass for COD or Apex. At this point, the only seasonal content I complete is each new season pass for Marvel Snap, and even then, if the newest content doesn't hold my attention, I have no qualms with missing out on those last few levels in favor of something more worthy of my limited time. If I'm finding the commitment associated with live service games less and less appealing, I strongly suspect many others are as well. And we've seen as much already as live services continue trending downwards in overall popularity and viability. If Suicide Squad offered a tight package with an epic story, enjoyable open world, fun enemies and bosses, all topped off with engaging loot and skill trees, I could easily see myself investing the 20, 30, or 40 hours required to play through the game in full on at least one character, and maybe even come back for a couple more. But, the way I see it, there's simply no reason to engage with the product Rocksteady is offering. Sure, I could play through the base campaign and do a bit of grinding afterwards, but for what? I have neither the time nor desire to continue returning to the game long term. Unlocking and gearing up new characters, trying out new seasonal content, or whatever they're going to call it, and dumping more time into a live service sinkhole when that time could be spent on the few ongoing games that still occupy my attention, any of the exciting single-player offerings coming out this year, or the mountain of shame that is my backlog from 2023. At this point, you might be thinking I want Suicide Squad to fail, but that couldn't be further from the truth. As our industry continues to stumble, and developers suffer more devastating cuts and layoffs, there's nothing I'd love more than to see Suicide Squad smash things out of the park. But how likely is that outcome really? We've seen this same scenario unfold time and time again, and every new attempt ends the same way: complete and total failure. BioWare tried their hand at live service with Anthem, which featured one of the best traversal systems in the history of gaming, and after nosediving at launch and failing to resurrect itself, the game was canned and the studio returned to its roots: single-player games. Then there's Crystal Dynamics and Marvel's Avengers, a team working with an IP that was, and still is, inarguably more appealing and culturally relevant than DC, and yet they suffered the same fate: an incredibly flawed launch, followed by an attempt to right the ship, and the subsequent failure that led the game to shut down entirely. The list goes on, but the common threads remain the same. Studios renowned for their excellent single-player products pivot to live service, whether by their own choice or corporate design, fail to catch the golden goose so many have been chasing, and then return to their roots while attempting to regroup and regain. With Rocksteady and Suicide Squad, the outlook may be brighter than what was in the cards for its contemporaries at release. Despite some less than stellar first impressions, there are positives scattered among that feedback, and perhaps the strengths that players noted during the closed alpha will be enough to carry the game through, or at least allow it to stand on its own 2 feet at launch and continue to build off that rare initial success. But, as someone once said, those who do not learn history are doomed to repeat it, and Rocksteady are way too far down the path of a live service release to hop off now, regardless of what the eventual outcome may be. The future of live service and its place in gaming were some of the biggest question marks heading into 2024, and these dilemmas still remain unanswered. Destiny 2, once considered the live service king that all others strive to emulate, is now largely in shambles, with its future after the final shape, and Bungie's future as a development studio both in question. Sony's plans for a big live service push have also faltered, as many titles in development have been delayed or outright cancelled, with Naughty Dog's planned foray into live service through the Last of Us IP being the most notable and potentially most costly of these setbacks. Most multiplayer juggernauts continue to chug along, and they will likely see the most continued success with this business model. However, even the most dedicated gamers among us only have so much time to sacrifice at the altar of live service. Will these games continue to grow, or will they too hit a point of market saturation, where future expansion simply isn't possible? I'm a competitive gamer at heart, and as long as I can still click heads or slam down cards to a half-decent degree, I'll continue engaging with my favorite shooter and card battler franchises. But the days when I'd buy and complete every battle pass for every game I play are in the rearview mirror, most likely never to return. One thing I know for certain is investing time into PvE live services is truly well and over for me. The motivation to spend dozens of hours grinding out each new Destiny season, the desire to level more Diablo 4 characters with each new update, and the curiosity to try out new live services on the off chance they might cement themselves as my new obsession, have all evaporated after years spent in a state of constant consumption that has burned those synapses away entirely. Even if Suicide Squad launches well and overcomes the numerous roadblocks scattered in its path, and as much as I'd love to give Rocksteady's new product a try, another live service commitment isn't in the cards for me right now, and potentially never will be. I'm not sure where the future of live service is headed, and 2024 may not even be the year that gives us the ultimate answer. But Suicide Squad will be the next big test, and it's a test I just can't see myself partaking in. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more gaming content, and let me know your thoughts on Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and a potential live service collapse in the comments below. You're a real one and I appreciate you. Catch you later, homies.